again, everybody. Welcome to the Backbone Podcast, where common sense still makes sense in a world that is sick and only getting sicker. And when you think of the unimportant things in life, like sports, for example, you can't get any more sicker than the New York Jets and their owner, Woody Johnson. You talk about a guy who is as lost and delusional as it gets. He literally makes his fans sick. And this is a guy who comes from a family that made medicine and stuff like Johnson and Johnson and Johnson. And this guy is completely lost. And it just goes to show that it doesn't matter how much money you have or how much money you're making. This guy's a billionaire. It's got to be worth 10, 12 billion dollars, right? He is a moron. He is an absolute moron. Now, he didn't make this money himself. This was his family's money. He's basically a legacy baby. But he buys this team, the New York Jets, almost 25 years ago now, maybe longer. And for the last 15 years, well, 14 years, it's going to be 15 this year. For the last 15 years, they haven't made the playoffs. They've been embarrassing, and they continue to embarrass themselves year after year after year. And the prices of those tickets go up and up and up. Parking at a Jets game is $100 fucking dollars. Listen to what I'm telling you. To go to see the Jets absolutely suck because they are not even playing NFL football. They're not playing NFL. They're not playing SEC college level football. That's how bad they are. That's how putrid they are. They're charging their fans $100 for parking. And if you've ever been to MetLife Stadium, you know that there's really, I mean, you could take the train in there from Manhattan. I think there's another train that can get you to MetLife too. Maybe a bus, but really it's in the middle of not nowhere, but it's very difficult to get there without a car. So you're taking advantage of these people. And Woody has his Crystal Palace hat on during this interview, and that just goes to show where his head is at. But the Jets again have lost. They're now 0-7, and I know I'm making this out to be a football week because the championship game for my son's high school is coming up, and I'm more nervous than probably he is. But the football news is just incredible. And this guy, Woody Johnson, yesterday gets in front of the cameras and microphone. And normally when you hear from owners, it's at the end of the season, right? John Mara, the Yorks in San Francisco, any of these owners, the Steinbrenner family with the Yankees, they usually talk to the media after the season's over. Hey, we were disappointed we didn't accomplish our mission, and we thank the fans. We have the best fans in the world, blah, 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 blah. We'll do better next year. Okay, whatever. This guy goes in front of the cameras for upcoming week 8 game, which they're going to lose. And he basically shits all over his quarterback. Now, Justin Fields is not a good quarterback. He's not an NFL quarterback. He came out of probably the worst quarterback draft in recent memory. But whatever your thoughts and feelings are of Justin Fields as a player, whatever. But still, you can't go out there as the owner of a team and shit on your own quarterback. I don't give a shit how bad he's playing. His coaches won't even do that to him. And we know he's bad. We don't need you to tell us. And not for nothing, Woody Johnson, you're one of the worst owners in maybe American sports history. Top 10, maybe top 5. You don't have the right to criticize anyone's performance. Justin Fields has been bad for 7 games. You've been bad for over 20 years. This is a disaster. Now we got the comments here. He's talking in front of these, in front of the New York media. And he basically just nonchalant. He doesn't know. And listen, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He goes to the games, but he doesn't watch the games. He doesn't study the games. He doesn't know what he's in the press. He's in the owner's box with diplomats and other people that don't give a fuck about the game. And he's drinking, eating, having fun, making connections, making business deals. But just the fact that he's talking about the Jets and how bad they are and how they can't play, and he's wearing a Crystal Palace hat, it's not a good look. It's actually a terrible look. And it's beyond me that he could be doing this. But he's the owner, and he's never going to sell the team, and I'll tell you why. Because it doesn't matter how much the Jets lose, and the Jets have been losing for 14, 15 years, and they'll probably lose for another 10, 15 more. What the Jets do as a football team, as a commercial entity, they make money. Fucking lots of it. So Woody Johnson doesn't give a fuck if the Jets win. Woody Johnson doesn't give a fuck how bad the Jets play. Woody Johnson doesn't give a fuck how bad the quarterback is. Woody Johnson doesn't care how many coaches he has to hire and fire. He don't give a shit. Every year, the Jets are going to make him $400, $500, $600 million without fail. And until that stops, he's a businessman. That's when he'll start to say either one of two things. A, I'm getting out of this game and I'm going to sell. Or B, I'm going to change my tune and try to get competitive as quickly as possible. But until that day happens, he don't give a fuck. He doesn't give a fuck. I'm telling you, if we ever gave some of these consistently losing owners of teams LSD, truth serum, they would sit down and say, winning doesn't mean shit to them. The football team doesn't mean anything. The fans certainly don't mean anything. They're never going to say that out loud because the fans are how they make their money. But they could care less if this team wins or loses. Woody Johnson doesn't care. Look at the terrible coaches this guy has hired. Adam Gase, Saleh, this fucking guy, Todd Bowles. I know Todd Bowles is doing very well with Tampa right now, but he was putrid. He was terrible. And they draft awful, awful, awful players over and over and over again. I'm talking about quarterbacks. They drafted that Zach Wilson. Where is he? I think he was the second or third pick in the draft. Now, the problem with the Jets is the Jets have talent. The Jets have good tackles. Right, left tackle are pretty darn good. And their defense is very good. I mean, their defense last year was the only thing that was worth watching. But now last year they had zero coaching last year. Zero. But they had Aaron Rodgers, and he was able to win games just because of him. But they had zero coaching last year. This year, I can't. I never thought I'd imagine saying this. It's worse than last year. This head coach, this coaching staff as a whole haven't a clue of what they're doing. This is the most abysmal coaching staff I've ever seen, and I thought last year's Jet coaching staff was the most abysmal I've ever seen. I mean, we've seen some terrible coaches in the NFL. We've seen terrible coaches in different sports. But the Jets just seem to they seem to want to one-up themselves on getting bad coach after bad coach after bad coach. And all of this was avoidable. All of it was avoidable if the Jets hadn't made one of the dumbest, most retarded moves that you'll ever see, and that was cutting loose of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers wanted to stay here. Just imagine that. This is a fucking guy that's going to be a first ballot, moonwalk his way into Canton. And he wanted to stay here. According to reports, he was willing to take a pay cut. According to reports, he didn't care. He was willing to allow the Jets to draft a quarterback, and he was going to mentor that quarterback. He was going to stay until that quarterback was ready. He's going to win you games. You're not going to win a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers with this team, or especially with this coaching staff, but you're not going to be 0-7 either. And they allowed the owner, the front office, allowed a head coach with zero experience to say, no, I'm going to get rid of the Super Bowl winning Hall of Fame quarterback, and I'm going to bring in Tyrod Taylor and Justin Fields, which has got to be one of the worst moves I've ever seen in maybe the last 10 years. It's almost as bad as, I bash Kyle Scamahan because that's what he is a lot. But the trade he made for Trey Lance in that same draft that Justin Fields was in is probably one of the worst moves that I ever saw. But this allowing this quarterback to leave is as bombastic as it gets. And Jet fans, I mean, listen, do I feel bad for you? No, and I'll tell you why later. But I'm going to give you some of these comments here by Woody Johnson. It's 5 minutes and 21 seconds. I'm going to play the first 3 minutes because that's when he talks about Fields himself. His name Fields directly, but here we go.
Oh, I just think defense, special teams are doing better. The defense is pretty good. And if we can just complete a pass, it would look good. We got to complete some passes. You got to convince them that you can do something. Otherwise, it's hard to have have a game that you can win.
What do you say to the fans who have lost hope? I know it's early in the season, but a lot of fans are
If they're a true Jets fan, that's not a question you ask, because they've been at it for a long time, so they know exactly what's going on. I think they're the smartest fans in the world because they do know what's going on. They know what they see and they know it. So,
still, even though you have both 0 and 7, it has to be.
Well, the record speaks for itself. Yeah. But I don't go to any game thinking I'm going to lose. So I'm hopeful every Sunday.
Aaron's told us it's going to take time for him to do what he needs to do.
He said what?
He said it's going to take time for him to get things the way that he wants them.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Listen, I'm going to the next game, and I'm hopeful that we'll win that. But I've been hopeful for the last 7 games too. So.
Who do you want to see at quarterback when you're at the next one?
That's completely up to the coach. I'm not going to be involved at all in any of that. This is what they're paid to do. This is what their experts are doing, and so they'll make the right decision with what we got. So, anyway.
You gotta keep going.
Good. Anything else for you guys? Not really, right?
There's been some controversy over Tom Brady being a working for Fox, but also working for the Raiders. Being an owner, you are.
All right, so that's the rest is about Tom Brady and who gives a shit. But as you just saw evidence right there, this guy is delusional. He's delusional, and he doesn't care. He's going to just say, "Hey, I'm going to go to the games. I have hope. Jet fans are the best and smartest fans in the world." Guess what? No, they're not. Sooner or later. Listen, there's a reason why we're called fans, right? It's a cutoff of the word fanatic. And Jet fans, they go to these fucking games every year. I know a guy who has season tickets. He spends thousands upon thousands of dollars on this shit team. Every year he buys the tickets. Every year he goes to the games. Every year it takes a year off his life, maybe 2. And when you hear a guy like this, who's wearing a Crystal Palace hat, Crystal Palace is a English Premier League team, if you didn't know, and they suck too. But he's wearing a Crystal Palace hat. He owns the team, I guess. While talking about the Jets and shitting on their quarterback, I don't know how you have faith in this guy. And again, he'll never, ever, 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 ever sell the team, because these NFL teams, they make money hand and fist. Doesn't matter what year, doesn't matter the record, doesn't matter anything. And that's the problem with American sports. See, in European football, soccer, whatever you want to call it, if your team sucks, if they're the last 3 teams, the 3 of the worst teams in the league, they have a single table. They get relegated to the second division. And the tickets change, ticket prices change. You can't charge Premier League ticket prices. You can't pay those players. So most of the time you're selling these players because they can't make the same amount of money in the Premier League that they make in the second division. And it's humiliating. We don't have that in the sport because we break up into divisions and we have playoffs and all that shit. But we don't do that here. We don't penalize teams for being bad. What we do is we award them with high draft picks and an endless stream of money. So there's no incentive to be good. There is none. If you own an NFL team, you're paying bare minimum for your players. If they go 3-14 every year, who gives a fuck? Your team's making $500-600 million. Are you really going to care? And if you say yes, you're lying. Because there's only so many owners who really give a shit. Eddie DeBartolo in San Francisco, when he owned the 49ers, he gave a shit. George Steinbrenner was a maniac. People criticized him for being too crazy, for caring too much. He spent money like boatloads of fucking money on players. And he fired managers left and right. He gave a shit. And we'll talk about the old man in Dallas who has said on record he will give up all of the money in the world that he has for one more Super Bowl. That's what he wants. He gives a shit. And you can say what you want about Jerry Jones. I'd rather have him as my owner than this fucking doof. Now, here's a very sad part that I wanted to show you. This is a poor Jet fan, and he basically tells you how it is, and he basically shows you that Jet fans ultimately are suckers. They're domestic violence victims. I mean, they get run over all the time, and it's hard to watch. It's sad to watch. But here's this young man. He's got to be like in his teens, and he's got so many more years of horror to go.
I hate this team.
Your thoughts on the game?
I hate this team. I was born into this, and I'm not gonna ever. I'm always a Jets fan, but like, I hate this team.
And there's the face that Woody Johnson mocks. This guy's father probably spends $4 or $5 grand on tickets a year, maybe more. And they watch an awful, awful product. And will the NFL do anything? Nah. The NFL doesn't care. The NFL doesn't care if their teams are competitive. I mean, what do they give a shit? If the league really cared about its product, they would put pressure on any and all owners who run their team as irresponsibly as Woody Johnson does and as the owner in Cleveland does, and make them get their acts together. But they won't. Because Jet fans and NFL fans, if you look at football today, football is awful. It's fucking terrible. I don't know how you guys love this sport. If you lived and died football like I did in the 80s, late 70s, 80s, and mid to late 90s, it's a totally different game. It used to be beautiful. Now it's just garbage. Ballerina, dip and dunk passes, bullshit. And this poor kid doesn't know any better. And he's going to have to live. Listen, he doesn't have to live. He can take the jerseys, throw them in the closet, and, pick up a hobby, maybe learn how to play guitar or something. But he won't, because fans are suckers. We just are. We live and die with these teams, and they could give two shits how we feel. You know, in 2002, my Inter team was in the midst of blowing the largest point lead in Serie A history. And they had to beat Lazio, who's a team in Rome. And so, of course, with my crazy thinking, I thought, well, I'm going to go to the game, and Inter are going to win this game and win the league, and all because of my presence. Well, I go there, and Inter totally humiliate themselves. And I was gutted. I was 28 years old. I remember I was going to go to the airport to go home. I was literally in Italy for like 4 or 5 hours, and there was no flights leaving. So I went back to Rome proper, and I went into a restaurant, and the people asked me, because Italians are very intuitive. The waiter asked me, "What's wrong? How come you look sad?" And I told him I went to the game today, and I didn't have to tell him I was an Inter fan. He knew. And the family who owned that restaurant came out and hugged me. They were like, "It's okay. We get it." They were Roma fans, thank God. And we ended up staying and talking for a couple hours. And then one of the sons said, "Come on, let's go out for drinks." And we went to drinks at a local nightclub there. And I just didn't feel like going, but I was like, you know what? I'm stuck here. I might as well. And you know what I saw in that nightclub on the dance floor with a couple of bitches? I saw 2 players from that Inter squad. A couple hours before, they just blew and humiliated themselves in one of the worst collapses in European football history. And they have the audacity to be in a nightclub in that city dancing with girls. And that was the time when I said, these guys don't give a shit. They don't care. We're the suckers. We're the ones who spend the money and go on airplanes and fly all over the place, buy the jerseys, buy the beers, buy the all the bullshit, and they make millions of dollars. And they got all the girls that are spreading their legs for them. They don't care. To them, it's business. We lost today. We'll move on to the next one. Fans don't think like that. It lives with them. It lives with us forever. And it's the Romans who started this with the bread and circuses. They blind you. Governments blind you with sports and entertainment and social media, and now all sorts of other stuff that is polluting the minds of young men and old men. It's unfortunate. But for Jet fans, I'm glad I don't feel your pain, because this is now, I keep saying to Jet fans, it can't get any worse, but it just seems to get worse. And the only thing you can do is just take it with a grain of salt. Don't spend any money on the team. Don't. That's it. That's all I could say. If they suck on TV or they suck while you're in the bar, doesn't worry. You're not spending thousands of dollars a year. Fuck them. And there's my 2 cents. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Remember, my friend, Satan is always busy. He's busy, and there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. But I'm just over it. Be a man, have a backbone, because masculinity and common sense are worth standing up for. And just remember, if it ends in an ism, it's a mental disorder. We'll see you later.